All right, so hey, black women. I have heard some bad misinformation being shared on a channel called Simply Said, right? And it's important for me to expose this because with the situations of black women having to move from state to state due to not being able to, live affordably, and them seeking refuge in other states to live within their means. Now, black women, if you're having this problem, the best way to get accurate information to move from state to state without being misinformed by malicious content creators who just give out misinformation to get clicks and views, you would go onto a website, www.usa.gov. Now, that website, what it is the federal website for every state in America. The federal's website for welfare in every single state, usa.gov. When you go on there, of course, it has other departments and other classifications and departments for you to get information in. But when you go on it and you peruse the website, you will see that it will have a drop-down menu for each state. When you go into those different states, that is where you will be able to access every bit of information about those states, particularly the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. That is for New York State. It's called, in short, it's OTDA. So that is welfare federally known for the entire state. So when you go on that website, you will be able to find out everything about New York State as far as Human Resources Administration goes, relocation, the welfare programs such as food stamps, rental assistance, cash assistance, and the medical assistance. Now, here in New York State, I have to make this abundantly clear because this is like the second video I've seen this particular content creator make with blatant lies, and she's doing it intentionally. Now, I don't know what her issue is, don't care, but if you are a black woman, let's say you're in some kind of situation where you need to come here, it is important you have the right information, okay? So I'm going to play a portion of the video where she is talking about a white woman who had been found guilty of welfare fraud and had to pay back $20,000, and she tells a story supposedly of a black woman who, in lieu of being allowed to pay a fine, was sent to jail. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I will let you hear what she has to say about that. But I want you to pay perfect attention to the part where she misinforms you about New York City. She says that they give you $13,000 in food stamps, and that is not true. And she got that information from another black woman who was lying about welfare in New York City, because that particular woman is one of these black women that has a problem with the migrants in New York City. And for those of us who really live in New York City, and I work for New York City, I'm telling you that is not true. There is not one household in New York City that gets $13,000 a month for food stamps. Now, EBT in New York City or in New York State stands for Electronic Benefit Transaction. Within that encompasses everything that welfare in New York State does for us, for a client or recipient. So if welfare has to pay back rent, that gets paid through EBT. If welfare, and mind you, just because it gets paid through EBT does not mean that the client has access to that lump sum of money. Be very clear about that, because this is the misinformation these two content creators are trying to disseminate, which is incorrect. Okay, so the rent gets paid through EBT, back rent gets paid through EBT, because everything is done electronically in New York State. So when landlords sign up for the EBT program, and there are several other rent subsidy programs that are underneath the umbrella of EBT. This is how the client's bills that the city has now become the sponsor for to pay that client's bills, they pay out the things needed for that client. Now, there is another thing that happens in New York City and New York State where if a client was sanctioned, right, which means their benefits was stopped for a certain amount of time, and that could be anywhere from 30 days to a whole fucking year. It's legal for them to do that and further, right? So if in that case you had situations where your budget was miscalculated, you had additional family members added to your case, you had new children, family came to live with you, you adopted some kids, your sister left her kids on you, or God knows what the situation that could come. But if in that case things were adjusted on your case, you could have lump sums of money on your case due to you because of specific situations. I want to make that very clear. Do you understand me? The first reason a person would have a huge lump sum on their EBT is because of sanctions or miscalculations, additions to the case, and adjustments that were wrong based off of all sorts of things. Sometimes people have child support issues on their case, right? Sometimes people have Social Security issues on their case, SSI issues, SSD, where it's different disabilities because of work accidents, being born with a disability, becoming disabled. You know this is life. So when life is lifing, different things happen to people, and when that happens, your case has to be readjusted. And sometimes you are awarded extra monies because of times that have passed where you were not receiving that money. And I'm giving you all of this clarity because I want you to understand that what they're saying in these videos are not true. There is no one in New York State or New York City regularly, whether they're a citizen or a migrant, because what these people are trying to push, the narrative they're trying to push, is that migrants are getting all of this phenomenal amount of money that New York City residents are not. And that is absolutely not fucking true. Okay? Absolutely not fucking true. And if any of you were to actually know how to use Google and go into New York State, use New York City's website, nyc.gov, and / whatever it is you want to go into, HRA, HPD, whatever, you would read it in writing and know that the shit these people are saying is definitely not true. Okay, when you go onto USA.gov, then in there sometimes they will show you the income eligibility tables. They will also show you the allowance for a family size per month to let you further know that the things they are saying is not true. And the reason I need to make this abundantly clear is because I don't want anybody coming here thinking that they're going to actually get $13,000 in food stamps, because you're not. You're not. You're not. And believe me, I don't even believe that to be true, because the other thing that New York State has is a cap on awards that are given to clients. And here in New York City and New York State, there's a thing that we go through with welfare called a fair hearing. And within that fair hearing, an administrative judge who works for the city, and they don't have to be a real judge. They could be someone who has the experience, who has worked in the administrative agencies of New York City enough to know the rules and regulations of New York City and to go through somebody's case file and determine when and where particular workers have made calculated mistakes with the addition and subtraction of the case's budget. They also look for mistakes in identity, because sometimes people with the same names same birthdays, they sometimes get mixed into other people's cases by accident. And when that happens, when you are fighting for this to be corrected, there is a period of time you have to wait. When the judge looks at the case file, he will review all of that, or she will review all of that. And those time periods determine how much of a lump sum you will get as a result of what has been an inconvenience to you. So again, I'm saying to you, no one typically in America, typically in New York State, it's probably true for America too, will be getting a $13,000 a month food stamp. That is just utter fucking stupidity and craziness. But this is because a lot of these black women, content creators online, they are fixated with this, voter registration party push for ignorance and maliciousness towards black people who don't want to vote against their best interests. So now in pushing a false narrative and a lie of a story like this, it is done to make people anti-Democrat and pro-Republican. But being pro-Republican with the type of Republican that you have running for president is idiocy, complete stupidity. Because the only thing that's going to happen to you is that you are going to get a white Klansman in office as the president, and you may think it's not a big deal. But what he's basically trying to do with America is what was the history and what was done to Hungary. Hungary was a Democrat just like America, a democratic country. And then they got this guy who wanted to be a dictator and who was just as crazy, well, not as crazy as Trump, because there's only one type of people in Hungary, which is white people. So, of course, you don't have black people to dehumanize and take their rights away from and put us back to slavery or very close to it. And these are the things that these malicious, lie-based baiting creators are out here trying to push, because they believe that everything is a problem for black people because of the Democratic Party. But these are the same people who do not ever take the time to go read into the administration and see all of the actually positive and progressive things this administration has done for black people more than any other president in the history of this country. And that's very real. Just Google it, or just go ask Siri, what has both Biden individually or Kamala Harris done for black people, and everything they've done will come up, because that's how Google works, right? Then when you're finished with that, go on to whitehouse.gov and read all of the things that they have proposed to help black people and black communities and other poor people, right? With housing, employment, money, everything you could think of, healthcare, etc. It's all there. Everything that people are complaining about, this administration tried to get it passed. They came up with a bill for it. But what happened? The Republicans voted it down. Because that's what happens when black people, some of these same black people who are these content creators who have all of this negative shit to say, but never anything positive to say or instructive to teach the viewer how to be productive in the voting in their town, in their state, where they live, to make a difference in their everyday life. I'm telling you, when you are not happy with the administration you have to look into how the Republicans voted on things that affect you every day. You have to look into how the Democrats voted on how things affect you every day. And if they voted against things like a higher work wage, they're not for you. If they voted against increasing the vouchers that go for health care, they're not for you. If they voted against women matching and getting equal pay to men, white men, and etc., they're not for you. And these are the things that tell you what party is for you and what party is against you. And the way you find these things out is whatever state you live in, you have to find the website for your state assembly and go into it and look through all of the people who voted and how they voted. You have to go on to your Congress website, whatever that is, whatever state you live in, and then you have to go on to your Senate website in whatever state you live in, the council people's websites, whatever state you live in. Also, if you live in a state that has an alderman or ombudsman, you do that as well. You go to every office of every representative that is in your state, and you go to their website and you read and see what these people did and what they were talking about, what bills they put together to become a law that they did not pass. And when you are on that website, it will literally give you the option to vote on that bill as well. It'll be a little box that will tell you to put your email in there, and it will say, do you vote nay or yay? Nay is no, yay is yes. So if you like what they're saying, you vote, you click it, you send it off. It goes to whatever person is responsible for you in your district, responsible for you as a constituent. It will also, because you put your email in there, it will send you emails and updates on that same bill to let you know what happened to it, all the way to the floor to be voted on, to find out if it is voted into becoming a law or not. This is how you change the actions and living conditions in your environment every day. And it is important for you to understand that every Senate election, you should be there. Every Congress, it's not called Congress, it's called congressman or congresswoman. Every congressman or congresswoman that's running for office, you should be there to vote. Because those are the two places, the two houses that make up the House of Representatives, make up the Congress. Okay? So when those two parties come together and they vote on bills and everything that affects us, the outcome is how shit affects us every day. So it's not only important for you to be voting for just the president. The president is good for the overall country. But when you want to vote for things that affect you, your everyday, today life in your neighborhood, your schools, how you go to work, your transportation, that is the Senate, that is your congressperson, that is your council person, that is your assembly person, that is your alderman, your ombudsman. You must vote in all those other voting. You must vote in all those other time periods when those people come up for election. This is how you make sure that the things you need in your community are there. So now let me get back to the welfare, right? So mind you, everything I said. So the only way that somebody would have that type of balance on their EBT, because EBT does in New York State does not just stand for the money that is strictly given to the client. It stands for, in New York State, every transaction welfare has to make for that client, whether that client has access to it or not. So if welfare has to pay that client's rent for the month, it pays it through that transaction. But that client does not have access to that. It goes directly through EBT, directly to the landlord by way of electronic benefit electronic benefit transfer. That's what the EBT stands for. So the same way we get like a direct deposit, that's New York City's form of direct deposit, the electronic benefit transfer. So they transfer electronically benefits, whether it be money, access to medical care, back payments for something that's owed to you, back rent, child care, eviction prevention. They do a lot of shit. When people get evicted from their apartments wrongfully in New York City, and the marshal comes and takes their shit away and puts it into storage, if the client goes to legal aid in New York City, right, and legal aid takes that case, or the client is smart enough to know how to go to court, housing court, and fill out the paperwork for welfare to be involved in the case, and they're given 45 days to go back to welfare and explain, yeah, I was living here, this man evicted me illegally, da-da-da-da-da-da, and they explain it to welfare, welfare would go, no problem. The judge will allow that client an extra 45 days for welfare to look through the case, make sure what the client is saying is correct, and then it will assign checks, but it won't assign checks through EBT to give to the client. It will assign checks through EBT to go strictly to the court, so that whatever money that client owed that landlord will be paid, so they could have re-entry back into their apartment. Also, if they had taken their stuff out and put it in storage, like I told you about the Marshalls, that EBT transaction will pay the storage and get that client back its stuff so it could get back into the apartment, right? And then after that, what else do? They pay for the storage, they pay for them to get back in the apartment, they pay for the back of rent, they pay for the attorney. Oh, if the person had any insurance on their apartment and there was damage or something stolen, because you know sometimes the Marshall people steal, the city pays for that too. And then you have to fill out insurance papers, and the city gives a certain cap for, let's say, I'm gonna make up the number, like $5,000. It will pay out the max on anything that was taken from your apartment, damaged, etc. They pay that to you as well. So, like I said, there is no particular person walking around with $13,000 in food stamps a month like these fools on YouTube and TikTok and wherever would have you believe. There are circumstances where if a person qualifies through all types of fair hearings, adjustments to their case, court actions, and etc., if that person is in the right and all these other people that were responsible for making sure their case was held, was performed correctly and professionally, were in the wrong, that person will get back payments. They will get, it's in New York City, it's called a award, AWARD. You will be awarded what is rightfully due you for the time period you were inconvenienced. So I doubt that's true, what those people were saying. I think it's all a lie because they never showed anything, right? But if that ever was to be factual, there is a reason for it. That is just not something New York City does typically, because that's not how New York City works. Okay? And because I live in New York City, and a lot of times when I hear stupid shit about New York City, I always speak the truth about it, because I am very conscientious about other black women. I don't want other black women being misinformed and having them believe that when they get here, it's all roses and they're going to give you all the money in the world to live, and you come here and that's not the case, and you're going to be fucked up. That's why I correct the lies and the misinformation. Not only that, I work for the city. I work for the city. I see this shit come through my emails, and I get the policies and the change in policies, the updates and the supplements of all this stuff that goes through New York City administration every day, because that's what I do for employment. So when I'm telling you that is bullshit, that is a lie, please don't believe it. And then I'm giving you a website to go to where you can find out for yourself. 2 I gave you, in fact. USA.gov, drop down the state, go to New York. If you want to go upstate, you find out the rules for upstate. If you want to go downstate, which is where I live in New York City, find that out as well. When you want to go and find out everything for the city, you go to www.nyc.gov/HRA or / whatever it is in New York City you want to find out about. The Parks Department, the Police Department, housing, whatever, education, whatever, it's all on there. That website is the umbrella for the city, not for the state. The state is a different one. But that is how you will know that when you see these malicious content creators on here lying to you to make a point because of their personal emotional stance on Republicans versus Democrats, you know you are being misinformed, because you have the actual source of information to go to find out the true information, and not be misled by silly shit, because these women do not know how to act age appropriately when they're making videos. All right, I'm gonna play this bullshit, and the reason I'm doing it by voice is because if I put the actual video up, if she gets in her feelings, she could strike my page for, what is that, copyright and all this other shit. So you do things so that people can't attack you, because that's what black women do. These black women on here on YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else, they profess to be so concerned with black women. They just love black women. They for the sisterhood, baby. But they will not hesitate to stab you in your motherfucking back as fast as they can, or do something wicked and foul to you that was not called for. So let's go. So remind you, this is the end of this video. She's trying to show a juxtaposition between a white woman not being prosecuted for welfare fraud, and she's telling a story that I don't believe is true about a black woman who was prosecuted for welfare fraud. Here we go.
So now think, you have to just think things through. How is she going to pay back? What kind of payment plan is that? $20,000. It looks to me that she might be in her garage in her house. They may put a lien on it. But $20,000, if you were in a bind where you really needed those food stamps, or maybe she thought it was an easy come up, what are you going to do? It wasn't even worth it. What do you pay back? $20,000, maybe a couple hundred a month? So yeah, let me know what you all think. But I think a lot of people, as times get hard, they're going to engage in these practices, trying to survive. Some people will do it, sometimes because of greed. I don't know what her reasonings are, but I think a lot of people get desperate. But this here, so she got to let her pay back. Keep in mind, some people have committed
I'm gonna
these
give you a
crimes,
bath today.
with
Don't
lesser
worry.
amount received
I see
in
you
benefits
scratching. I'm gonna
and
give you a
going
bath.
to jail. The name went from Keisha Jones to my name is inmate number 784912382.
Sit.
So yeah, I think due to desperation,
Get down,
we may
Maya.
see more of this.
Get down.
There are situations now. You've seen people, they got a good paying job. Ooh,
Get your
the
ass
husband
off
and
me.
wife got laid off at the same time. Ouch. And
Stop.
all the money.
Stop.
Now, never mind the fact that in some states, the illegal immigrants are getting like $13,000 in food stamps. I still can't wrap my mind around that. I wonder, is that person flying back to a little village and feeding some other folk? How do you, what kind of refrigerator do you have? That's another thing. That was in, I believe, New York. $13,000 in food stamps, and they've got a thing called EBT cash. It's a 2-in-1 hookup. Why do you getting the cash and the food? I can't believe that receipt. EBT food stamp allowance, and then an EBT cash amount. And the cash amount is around $5,000. Dang! But see, the Americans, when you hit hard times, good luck. When the Americans hit hard times, good luck. Unbelievable. Anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and share. Be alert, be aware, y'all. It's getting hard out there. And I'm out.
Like I told you, deliberate, malicious misinformation. She knows what she's saying is not true. Is not correct. She knows she's misinforming you. But it is like this type of insidiousness that these black women have for other black women, and they're so hateful for no reason. Now, this video was talking on her channel is called "She Has to Pay Back $20,000 in Food Stamp Fraud, Better Than an Orange Jumpsuit on the Prison Yard." That may be, but when you're giving misinformation and you are deliberately misinforming people, you need to stop, because you fucking with people's lives by you falsely telling people that New York City is paying $13,000 a month in food stamps and $5,000 in cash. You are misinforming people, misleading them, and getting their hopes up for shit that does not exist. Even just the viewer hearing something like this, you should literally know that is the most incredible amount of bullshit ever told. Do you know how fucking bankrupt and unable to function New York City would be if they paid every recipient, whether they're a migrant or a resident, $13,000 a month and $5,000 in cash? There would be no economy in this city. Do you know how many fucking people live in this city who are on welfare? It would crash the whole fucking city. This is why I'm telling y'all. Take the shit these people are saying with a grain, less than a grain of salt, because she's being a fucking fool intentionally. Because she seems like a hater on New York City. And she also seems like a person where throughout her time on YouTube, she's very Republican orientated by her stories of investment. Mind you, while she never gives black women the basic information to invest or to learn about investing. So there's a bit of elitism and judgment and I'm up here, you're down here type of thing going on throughout all of her videos. So when you watch people, it's good to kind of like analyze the things they do because it tells you a lot about their content. Maybe not that much about them because we don't know anybody on here personally, but their content speaks fucking volumes. And this is a dangerous person towards black women because anytime you deliberately, this is the second video now where she's making these false claims about a city she has never lived in, knows absolutely fucking nothing about. And I'm quite sure she's aware of the fact that I am disputing the facts on these videos. She's intentionally trying to stand down on this misinformation, where if a black woman was to take her seriously and uproot her children from another place, thinking that she's going to actually come to New York City and get $13,000 in food stamps and $5,000 in cash and be able to live off that in New York City. And she gets here and she finds out that in actuality, it doesn't matter how many children you have on your case. The max of food stamps that you will get in New York City is $700. The max that you will get for a cash award is going to be, it's like $1,200. And that's for the month. You got that? The voucher that they give you for your housing subsidy can go up to $2,000, but you will never see that money. If you owe back rent, New York City will pay up to $7,000 in back rent. You will never see that money. That money will pass through your EBT. You will see it, but you will have no access to it. These are the things that she knows absolutely nothing about. There is also a cap for your medical expenses unless your doctor can put in an appeal to justify why you need certain services. She doesn't speak about that either because she's so focused on trying to give people the false narrative of thinking that this is somehow some land of sugar and honey, when it's not. It is a city that is being run just as dysfunctional as every other fucking city in America. Sure, do we live a higher standard of living because we are New York City? Yes, we do. But at the same time, we still have people here who cannot afford to feed themselves, who cannot afford to take care of their children or themselves, and who are evicted left and right in this city because this city tends to cater towards rich white people and they cater towards rich real estate investments and landlords. Even though in this city, it is a tenant-friendly city and state where you could literally live in your apartment for a whole year without paying rent, you still gonna get evicted. So you better use that whole year that you're there rent-free to save up your money to get another apartment. Because yeah, they'll let you skate, but you still gonna get the fuck out. And when you get out, you might not be able to find another landlord that is going to be willing to pay you, give you an apartment that was either valued at the same or less than when you leave. So the shit that happens here happens every fucking where else in this country. So do not ever think that when you hear, oh, New York City this, New York City, no. It is no different from your city where people are struggling. The only difference here is that if you have an education, you could work for the city You could work for the state of this state and the federal for this state and make 2 times as much as a regular, like a private job when it comes to your same level of education. So if I'm working for a private employer and I only have a high school diploma, I will make more money working for the city. If I have a bachelor's degree and I work for a private employer and I make a certain amount of money, if I have that same bachelor's degree and I work for the city of New York, I will make more money. The only difference when the money starts to vary, depending on the title you have as an employee, will be a master's degree. Because here in New York City, depending on what field your master's degree in, it has different ceiling hit salaries where your salary will not go over that. So you might have a higher salary from a private employer. That's the reality of this city. Okay? So when people are telling you crazy shit like this about $13,000 a month in food stamps and $5,000 a month in cash, automatically off the bat, just off of hearing something fucking stupid like that, you should go, yeah, something don't sound right about that. And you would be correct, because that shit is not true. All right? And like I said, this is a beautiful city. If you intend to move here, you will have challenges with apartments after you first come here and you go through the whole process of finding an apartment. It's difficult. But when you find one and you get the hang of how the New York City housing courts run here, piece of fucking cake. Most of everything is explained to you online. Every single borough has free legal services, so that if you need an attorney to fight your fight, they're there for you. And you can make it in this city if you want to, okay? But do not be fooled. Welfare is not giving you no money like that. Not now, not fucking ever, okay? All right. Be well. I hope this helps. I hope if you're serious about relocating here, you go most definitely onto the website of www.usa.gov and look into the whole relocation packet to New York State. There are a lot of benefits to living here. If you are a person who has a reliable car and you live upstate, this is just me telling you because I work for the city. It's a lot of shit here that if you intend to become a civil servant, which is a person who works for New York City, or a state servant that works for the state, you could live a fabulous life. Like if you come here and you want to move upstate, the thing you should do is go to this website, www.cs, like Charlie Sam, .ny, New York, .us, United States. You go on that website. That is a website that tells you about every job opening for New York State. So like I said, if you move here and you don't want to be in the hustle and bustle of the city, you're not quite ready for that yet, you can move upstate where it's a lot slower, like where you come from probably, right? And it's more spacious up there. It's cheaper to live, and the houses are bigger than they are downstate. Here's the catch to it. I'm telling you this personally from me to you. So if you come here and you want to stand on your feet and be rolling in the money right away, you're going to work your ass off, but you'll be able to live, right? You're going to go onto that state website I just gave you, www.cs.ny.us. And you're going to go on there and you're going to look to become a CPS worker. Now, provided you have to have the educational credentials. So if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you need to get on to somebody's accredited online college that is accepted in New York State. You have to understand this kind of stuff too, okay? You go into the New York State Department of Education accreditation, and they will list all of the schools online or brick and mortar schools that will be accepted. Their accreditation is accepted by New York State, meaning no matter what school you go to, as soon as you take it to an employer or to a New York State or city employer, they're going to say, oh, okay, this is a school that's accredited by New York State. We accept all your credits. We accept your degree. You're hired. You need to know all that type of stuff about any state you go to, okay? So if you come here, and that particular job, I'm telling you, is always in demand. When you go onto the state website for www.cs.ny.us, you're going to see they have a portion on there that says continuous openings, meaning that this shit hires all year long, regardless, because the turnover in those positions are crazy. People start those jobs, they get the experience, they get their title locked in, because New York State works like this. If you work for the city, state, or federal, there are titles that come with those jobs. And once you do a year of probation, you are locked into those jobs, meaning you don't get fired. You don't get fired unless you do something increasingly out of fucking control. They come with these are unionized jobs with unions that will fight for your job and fight for your contractual increase of pay periodically. So if you come to New York City, you work for the city like me. I am known as a civil servant. So any agency I work for in New York State, they recognize me. So if I work for, let's say, and I used to do this, I used to work for housing, and I see a job in another city agency, I'm making it up. Let's just say I want to go work for the Housing Preservation Development, HPD, right? And I want to be an inspector there for housing. That just say, because I worked for New York City, NYCHA, housing prior, so I'm qualified to do this job, right? So let's say I say, okay, I'm currently working for housing, but I see a job over in HPD that pays twice as much, and I do less work, but the work is more intensive. I could do that shit. So I put in for an inter-agency transfer. Not intra, but inter. Okay? Because I'm going from the city, from one agency to another. So it's INTER. If I was looking to go for a position within the same agency that I currently work in to a higher one, it would be intra. INTRA. Okay? So I put in for that transfer. Now you got to go through the same shit like everybody else. When they call you, you got to be interviewed. But because you already work for the city or state, they already know you meet the requirements because you already an employee. So they go based on what you're telling them, what you could bring to this job that will be an asset to whatever department or employer you're now trying to work for. You got to sell yourself. You got to do a great 3-minute pitch. You got to finesse your resume. You got to get in the door. Once you get in the door, now let's say if where you was working, you was only making like $35,000. With an intra-agency transfer, you could go from $30,000 to $70,000 or $50,000 just like that by getting a new position, by winning an interview. So those are the type of perks that come with this city, but you got to know how to work this city, okay? And those two websites I gave you are the best way to start, because nyc.gov has everything about this city, every agency, every rule, every regulation, everything you want to know about how this city works and how it will affect you is on that website. That is the best thing this city has to offer anybody from anywhere else coming here or to the people that currently live here. So I tell you these things because, like I always tell you, I am for black women. I am always about black women's progress and black women's like efficacy, like becoming the best version of themselves anytime, anywhere. So if you feel like this place is a place you could become the best you, come on, girl. I done gave you 2 ways to let your light shine. I would suggest starting upstate because there's less people. There's more demand for all the jobs up there, and you could always transfer downstate. Or, girl, you ain't got to do shit. You could live close enough to New York, downstate, and get on the goddamn Metro North or the Amtrak or any of them damn trains that come from downstate and go upstate, or the buses, and take your ass to sleep on that train or bus for an hour or 2 that you coming downstate to get to work and going home. And you could work in the hectic city and go back home to a beautiful, lavish house, living your best motherfucking life. It is what it is. But you gotta have the credentials. You cannot... You got to get used to that kind of shit too, because we live around a bunch of crazy people in New York City that love to kick shit off. And just in general, emergency service workers here, they always fucking blast sirens so that they could get through the crowded streets. So once you get past accepting that shit, you good to go. All right. But to get back to what I was saying, you gotta have the credentials. You must have the education. You gotta have the paperwork or the work experience. You can't come here with no education and think you're gonna succeed. It's not gonna happen. You gotta have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree and you will be fine. Because almost every job here that is for the city, state, and federal, the minimum requirement is a bachelor's degree. When you want to start getting close to $100,000, you must have a master's degree. And if you have a PhD, you write your own ticket. You could demand your own salary here. They allow you to do that. So now you have the information correctly about this city. And anytime you have questions about relocating here or working here, ask me. And if I can help you, I will definitely help you. And if I have to refer you to a particular website or whatever, I'll do that too. Just ask. If I can do it, I will help you. But I've given you all the things to help yourself. USA.gov, drop the menu, hit New York State, and go through the whole fucking website. You be good to go. When you want to look at New York City in particular, www.nyc.gov. The 311 website will pop up. You can hit that search bar for anything you're looking at in New York City. All the information is going to populate. And if you're curious and want to speak to somebody about New York City, dial 311. The operator for New York City will come on and how may I help you? Oh, operator, I was wondering about the relocation in New York City from wherever. All right, I could provide you with 3 referrals. If you have an email, I will send you that information also by email. This is what New York City does. Okay? So stop listening to the people like Simply Said and whoever that originally ridiculous woman was who made that video lying about immigrants in New York City, welfare, and how much they get paid. Because you got to understand, y'all, and I'm ending the video now. These ignorant black people who are doing this are trying to do what the white people have instructed them and taught them to do. Divide and conquer. Except for we're going to be conquering ourselves. Because when we keep trying to have issues with migrants, who are mostly Hispanic, right? These people are not taking our jobs because they're not qualified to get them. That's number one. Number two, they're living in shelters and a lot of them are sleeping on the streets in New York City. I know y'all have seen that on the news. And if you want to be curious, you know how to do it. You find a migrant shelter in New York City. Use Google to zoom you into that point in New York City. And just look how shitty the surrounding area is. And if you think that's living lavish, then I don't know what to tell you, but it's not. And that will show you the reality of how they're living. And when you see them standing on line for hours to get a bed, to get some food, to get some clothes, because people are really treating them badly here because they're very fucking nasty here. So when people are telling you that they're being given the red carpet, that's a fucking lie. It is a lie. And a lot of times when those people are in crisis, really bad crisis, part of my job is to try to resolve that. And so I have to listen to people crying on the phone, cussing me out, and getting very upset over what is happening to them in these shelters. And rightfully so, because they are fucking human beings, just like you and me. Despite you don't like that they came here and you buy into the white racist fucking narrative of they're taking our jobs. They're not. They're not. All right, I've said enough. It's up to you now to further think, apply all this shit I gave you in this video to whatever you want to do in life. And now you have actual websites to learn exactly everything that happens in relation to what you're looking for in New York City or upstate. Have a good day.